it was surprisingly easy, right? As a Canadian who has, grew up in Canada, would visit the United States, and we always got the question, I think the other nuance here is that for many people flying to the US, you pre-clear US customs in Canada.
Right.
So I went through customs in Calgary, US
Yeah.
customs, I should say,
Yeah.
in Calgary. And I remember sweating a little bit because that first time when I was it was a Saturday or Sunday, and I was starting work on the Monday, in Houston, Texas, and I was a little worried, and because I'm used to the questions: what are you doing in the U.S.? How long is your visit going to be? You're almost used to the grilling,
Yeah.
and justifiably so. We have to keep our borders secure.
Hmm.
But when I said that I was going down to work, and then they asked if and I said it was going to be on a TN work permit, it was the doors opened. It was easier. I mean, it took minutes out of an additional couple of minutes to get that that authorization in my passport. It was remarkably swift and easy.
Yeah.
Surprisingly so, right? It happens at the airport. It happens as you're going through customs.
Yeah. It's beautiful because there's no consulate involved. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
apply for a visa. You get the visa right on entry into the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the TN side. That's half of the USMCA free trade agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's another beautiful half as well, and it's for those managers that have not been,
Mm-hmm.
aren't able to, or directors that aren't able to come in under that TN category. So there's the intercorporate transferees, which are
Mm-hmm.
a big deal in immigration all over the world. Every country in the world virtually has intercorporate transferee work visa options for people. And it's a little more complicated. You have to be a manager or an executive or someone with specialized knowledge. You have to have worked for a year in, say, a Canadian company before going into the U.S. You're going to get, let's say, initially a 3-year visa. There's a limit. It's 7 years in total, or 5 years if you're someone with scientific knowledge or specialized knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But you're transferring from one company. Like, for example, the classic example would be, and I'm just going to take it out of the free trade context, a manager of Toyota in Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
the car company,
Mm-hmm.
has worked as a manager at a plant in Tokyo and is being transferred to New York to manage a Toyota plant in New York. That's a classic intercorporate transferee visa. So that's under the USMCA. And then I have a particular specialty. I've learned over the years. I didn't know I had this specialty, but I do. And it's hotels, hotel buyers.
Buyers,
Yeah, of hotels. Something you may not know, but 80% of all hotels in the United States are owned by a group called the Patels.
really?
They are Gujarati Indians from the province of Gujarat, whose name is
Mm-hmm.
Patel.
Mm-hmm.
They're not all related, but they all have the name Patel. And 80% of all hotels in the United States are owned by these Patels. They're in that business, man, and they're good at it. They're so good at it.
So that's almost the third category,
Yeah.
is almost an investment visa,
Yes.
right? So an individual, they're not tied to, it's not a transfer. You're buying a hotel,
Correct.
you're buying a manufacturing plant, or making some significant investment
That's right. It's
in the
called
other
the
country.
E2 visa. E2.
Okay.
Yeah. You're starting a new business or you're buying a business in
Yep.
the United States and vice versa in
And
Canada
vice
and
versa, if you
also
want to
in
come to Canada.
Mexico, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's
So
my
what,
life, basically. That's what I do for a living. Yeah.
so going back to the NAFTA ones, there's a
Yeah.
list of professions. I believe one of the requirements is that you need at least a bachelor's degree in that field, right?
Yeah.
So you can't just say you're an engineer.
That's right.
You need an engineering degree. You need a nursing degree,
And you have
a
to prove
bachelor's,
it with your
and you
degree.
have to prove it. Yeah. Whereas with a transfer, right? If you're working with Toyota, or you're working with, Citibank in New York, and they want to move you to Citibank in Toronto,
Yeah.
you will likely have a degree, but it's not a requirement
Correct.
in
Now,
that case.
something for HR executives, because I know a lot of HR departments and companies all over U.S., Canada, Mexico. There's this sense that, oh, we could do this.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need lawyers. We'll do it
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And you can, to a certain extent. For example, I have a client, I'm not going to mention the name, but he owns a helicopter company, and he sends helicopter pilots down to the United States to fight the forest fires and the fire
Hmm. Hmm.
from Canada. They're all flying down there and
Hmm.
fighting forest fires. And he does his own, what they call L1B transfers. Now, this is an intercorporate transfer. Now, when he gets into
So,
trouble,
he would have a Canadian operation
yeah,
and a U.S. operation
that's right.
within the same company. So it's a
Right.
transfer
That's right.
from one company to the other.
Yeah. Now, when he gets into trouble, he calls me, and the headaches that he's got, yeah, I can't even share with you. Like, my God, oh, I,
If you would have just been called in earlier,
yeah, yeah,
says many lawyers.
yeah, yeah,
If you
yeah,
would have called me a month ago,
yeah.
it would be a lot cheaper for you.
So so he's got me on retainers, like emergency retainer, and so we've been working for years like that. Like I can't believe it. And I mean, there's a lot you can talk about that. They're
Hmm.
fighting forest fires.
Hmm.
What a job! Oh my
Yeah,
goodness!
what a
Like
job.
who wants to fly a helicopter into a forest fire? Oh, but they do it, and they're great at it. So
And now, are those? It almost seems like there is a separate category. And I'd just like your thoughts on this as well.
yeah,
So a forest fire is a great example. We saw those the fires in Los Angeles
yeah,
recently. A lot of Canadians were, flying airplanes that, those water bombers that would come down.
yeah,
But that's also typically a very short-term incident, right? It's you're dealing with that situation. You're dealing with a problem in a manufacturing plant, when you're going down, rather than, truly immigrating, where you're setting up roots and buying houses and opening up bank accounts and becoming a resident of that other country. Is that a fair distinction?
yeah, yeah. I mean, there's emergency sort of ways that you can, like someone who's going down for a forest fire, that's an
Yeah,
emergency. Like
yeah.
right
You
away at
can't.
the border,
Yeah,
like we don't have time to fool around. Get
we don't
on
have time to fool around,
that,
right? I mean,
get going.
we're
Yeah.
yeah,
And they know, I mean, these guys who are driving down with fire trucks and stuff, they know this is
yeah,
going to be, short period, whatever, it's 2 weeks or whatever to get the power back up and all that kind of thing. And that's
yeah,
going back and forth all the time. There's no problem there.
yeah.
It's not necessarily governed by the free trade agreement as such, although
Hmm.
it is. The free trade agreement also talks about visitors status and coming back and
Hmm.
forth, and there's also after sales service as a category that's often used by companies, where they sell, let's say, a major, I don't know, some kind of a major plant of some kind, and so now after they sell the plant, they have to install it. In particular, I've been involved in medical supply, where in cancer related research, they buy equipment and they ship it, and then they have to install and set it
Hmm.
up and maintain it and stuff, things like that. That's all
Hmm.
under the agreement, so that all works.